I'm focused on this theory cause it keeps me from this fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, this is Christina Barton. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barnes. Today, we're going to be talking about this executive order. He mentioned it yesterday that Donald Trump signed protecting women's sports. The White House produced a nice little fancy video about it. I've been seeing tons of videos, people talking about it. And really, the commentary around this issue right now is the fact, you guys are just popping in. You guys are popping in. Good afternoon, everybody. People are talking about the fact that the Democrats just threw away this issue that's an 80-20 issue, like literally an 80-20 issue, where of course men should not be competing in women's sports. And so it's funny just how much they wanted to support the men on this issue, even though it trampled the dreams and rights and privacy of girls. And now Donald Trump, the person they deem as a sexist, misogynist, yada, 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 is the champion for them and got to take this massive win. And it's a good thing that it happened, but it's also bad that it's taking an executive order to push all the stuff anyway. But I also want to talk about this congressman that decided to protest the National Day of Prayer. The National Prayer Breakfast, which Trump is not the only one who's had one. Democrats and Republicans go to the National Prayer Breakfast. It's a tradition since the 1950s. So it's just really, I don't know. Pick your poison. Keep just chugging it. Just keep chugging it back, guys. Just keep taking the poison, guys. Okay. And I also got to talk about this clip that I saw earlier on CNN of a commentator, black commentator. She used to work in the Obama White House and did some, I think, some advisory stuff for maybe the Biden and Harris administration. But she thinks that, she complained about not getting paid enough, and and she thinks it's because she's black. And I just have some thoughts about that. So before we jump into everything, I'm going to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost a stream. Run my site, all the good stuff, so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. I would like to take a trip to DC for Black History Month. So maybe that'll happen. I know I can get in. I just that might be happening, but I'll let you guys know more soon. Anyway, be on the lookout for that. I've gone to the Black History Month program maybe just twice in the Trump administration. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 times, but I was at the White House a couple times when Trump was president before. So should be cool. You guys can check out different merch that's available at the store. That does also help, does also support. I encourage you guys to go and check out some of my books that's available online. Like this one's a fiction book. I said I was going to pimp this all month, and I am. The Color of God's Eyes, Song of the Devil's Lips is like a historical fiction fantasy. Takes place during the American Civil War. Think superpowers, like X-Men meets roots or something. So, you know, it's a really cool story. So I encourage you guys to check that out. I have other books you guys can check out. My nonfiction book, one of my nonfiction books, I have two, is of course God is Blatantly Against Abortion. So go ahead and check that out as well. I'm also going to go to Motor City Comic Con. That one's in May. I don't know the exact date, so you guys can keep that on your calendar. And I plan to do something special probably when my bigger book is out too. So I'll have to announce that, but I'll wait till it's actually like finished. Tina's still working on it. And I'll just keep you guys updated. So I want to chit chat, I think, about the CNN clip first. Because I was thinking about it earlier today and I saw it and I was eager to talk to you guys. And then I'm like actually like gathering my notes and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk about this executive order and stuff. And then at last minute, I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing happened earlier. So let me talk about this snippet that's going around. So it's from Ashley Allison, I've seen her on CNN. I don't, you know, I'm sure we've played segments with her and you guys have probably seen her before, maybe sometimes you're there, but usually, well, let me play the clip and we'll go on.
I do not have the same opportunity as you. I know I don't.
And you know
and
that
I know
too.
what Scott.
And you know that.
Let me just tell you about me.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I want to answer this.
I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about how I feel. Me, a black woman in this country.
But not in this city.
And I will run. And if you want,
I'm a New Yorker, not in this city. You cannot say that. You can't say that in this city. I'm not
talking about New York. I'm talking about Ashley.
Let her finish.
Okay, right here. I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all y'all added up together at this table, right? And I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in, and it's not
even in the White House.
Even in the White House.
Well, whose fault is that? I don't think you worked for George W. or Trump.
Well, guess what happened when I was there? DEI.
Scott, look.
I do not have the same.
There's lots of great things in this clip. There's the moment where
opportunity.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like play it, but let me. At the end, when she grabs her mug, she like rolls her eyes, like the attitude there, and the little blink, little head cock, and then she starts sipping her drink, sipping her tea, whatever. She had her snaps of affirmation over there, and there was him mentioning not New York. New York is a very woke place. So if you should have a lot of opportunities and stuff, it should be in New York. Mentioning like, okay, if you got underpaid while you worked at the Obama White House, who was, you know, mixed, but the first black president, quote unquote, that's not George W. Bush's fault. That's not Donald Trump's fault. That you think you got underpaid in the black person's administration. And she said, well, you know what they didn't have? They didn't have DEI. So what is the argument there? Is the argument that we need DEI because Democrats treat black people like garbage? Is that the lesson? I mean, we could run with it. We could totally run with that narrative if we want to. I don't think her being like a paid contributor and for CNN and you know, pushing policy and other stuff for Democrats, I don't think that's the message that she wants to push at the end of the day. But perhaps that is the lesson we need to learn and reflect on and take in. As far as the New York comment, my sister, she was in New York when she was at the RNC one time. She's doing business out there, and so she went to this one place to just kind of, I guess, hang out and eat something. And so she was at the bar, and so there's this one guy who kept hitting on her, and so he was like aggressive and stuff, and she just kept, you know, saying like, leave me alone, and to the point where she's like threatening, like, I will hurt you, like, leave me alone. And the bartender noticed, and he just started talking to her about politics and like, hey, well, how's Trump? Like, Trump is great. And so them talking about Trump and stuff made the guy who was like so into her uninterested, and then he like left her alone. And then the bartender was like, I don't even like Trump. I just knew that would work. He just knew that her being a Republican would turn him off from her. So you know, and when you talk about people from the White House, there's a lot of people in like who worked for the Trump White House and stuff who had a hard time kind of getting stuff even afterwards, because they're you know, very partisan in their opportunities, and they ain't like him, so they ain't like people who work for him. I'm not saying it was the case of everybody. A lot of people went on and maybe did media or whatever. But if you come out of, you know, Trump world and you trash him, you know, then it's like, hey, you want to go on The View and get all those kinds of opportunities. But her attitude saying, I have always been the lowest paid staffer in everywhere she's worked. Now, government stuff, that stuff will be public, so I guess she could find that out. But from my understanding, people at the White House don't get paid a lot. Like, I know sometimes you see like exorbitant government employee roles and they're a lot of money, like Anthony Fauci making buku kind of crazy money, but staffers don't get paid that much. You get paid more, like, that's why people go. They might get a job at the White House for a little bit. They may go work as a staffer for some congressman for a little bit, but they want to be lobbyists. They want to be lobbyists and work on getting special contracts and all that stuff and have that government money flowing to their stuff. People want to be lobbyists. They want to go work somewhere in the private sector where we have some influence or knowledge with policy because they worked here and worked there. So people going to go work at the White House and other jobs where they don't pay a lot, it might be a sacrifice for them, but it looks great on a resume as long as, you know, people don't, you know, X you out because they hate your boss or whatever. But working in the White House, that's a really big resume booster. And so she was a deputy director of office and public engagement back in the Obama White House. But if Obama didn't pay you a lot, you still accepted that salary, and you probably did it because it was, you know, role of a lifetime for a historic president. And it's just historic and an honor to be working at the White House. But they don't pay a lot. They didn't pay a lot then. I didn't look up how much he got paid exactly, but they don't pay a lot now. I don't know. I don't know what everybody's getting paid now, but that's just kind of how it's been and how it is. She's not particularly special and she's not particularly persecuted. It's just really how it is. And now she's on CNN. Now I don't know how much she gets paid or she gets paid. Sometimes people go on CNN and these news networks and they don't get paid. But if you're on there often, I assume she's a paid contributor position. Now, that information, I don't know how she knows how much everybody else makes. Because usually you take a job and they don't want you discussing what everyone is making because it builds up animosity. And what you decide to take, especially as you're a paid contributor or whatever, those are roles that and prices you negotiate. And a lot of time guys are better at making their demands and negotiating and getting more money. That's usually how it psychologically it tends to be. So I don't know how much they get paid on here and how much she gets paid compared to everybody else on this panel, but I can tell you this: as she's talking to Scott is absolutely worth more money than she is. Is that up for debate? Scott is absolutely worth. She's like, I got more education than all of you combined. Okay, Captain Planet. Like, who cares if that's the case? And she has a background in education and she's in the law. But Scott will be their lonely Republican, and he'll go on the panel and he'll debate like 5, 6, 7 people, whatever, and will be the lone voice. A lone Republican voice. And they got like another Republican on there now, but he'll go up there and he'll fight. Like you got to be pretty impressive and know your way around an issue and know how to spin it too. If you are a Republican going on any of these, shows beyond like Fox or whatever, you got to know your stuff. Usually when people talk about viral clips, they're looking at Scott. More eyes probably see CNN from clips with Scott in them. There's no debate that Scott is worth more money than she is and is more important than she is. I'm sorry to her. I'm sorry to her. I'm sorry that bruises her ego. But you can see yourself with all the value in the world. But that doesn't mean that everyone else sees that same value in the product that you're producing. And maybe you worked hard to build your craft, but that doesn't mean with all the knowledge that you've consumed that you're regurgitating things that, I don't know, are unique, that are particularly intelligent, that's worth people's times, that's entertaining, because people want to hear the news, but they want to be entertained. And then like this attitude that's kind of being brought about too. Like, look, people like angry Black women when they want someone to be told off. Okay. When they want you on their side to tell you off, but you complain on CNN about how you're disrespected and ain't paid enough. I don't know if people at CNN connected the dots. Was like, is she talking about us, bruh? Like she complaining about, she pooping where she eats right now. So I don't know how often she turns that attitude on her coworkers or how often she turns the attitude towards her bosses or whatever. But like, people like angry Black woman aimed like a beam. They like it aimed like a beam, like Cyclops. Like he's got his visor on, but when you take off that visor and if his eyes are just kind of like everywhere and it is just chaos ensues, like then you got an issue. Then you got an issue. So she can sip her coffee or whatever it was in the mug, and she can get her snaps of affirmation. But complaining about how you can't get ahead or treated as well as you want to be while you're on CNN, it just and talking to Scott, like you shouldn't on CNN, you shouldn't make more than Scott because you don't bring as much value to the table as Scott. You don't. You don't. And you can be mad about it. Some of you guys are saying she's pathetic and guys are better at negotiating. Scott better be making more money for what he goes through. Yeah, like, and I don't know how many Republicans want to go on some, like, it's easier to go on, I would think it's easier to go on Fox where, like, Sean Hannity used to have Hannity and Combs back in the day where it was like balanced. And of course, like Combs had passed away some time ago, and it's just been Hannity show for a long time. One time I turned on Sean's show, and Sean's got like 3-4 Republicans on one segment who are all basically saying the same thing. So you're not, you may get debates or something here or there, but not it. A lot of there, you can go on some shows on Fox where it's a little bit of an echo chamber. So if you want to go on there, it's safer to go on there. But going on CNN, you're going to have to be able to put up your dukes like 99% of the time, not just with the guests, but with the hosts. With the host, how many times have he had to push back against Abby Phillips on her show? So, she can be upset, but wagging the finger, hunching over the table, and this is why we need DEI. But you shouldn't need a job because of DEI because you got the qualifications and stuff. But when you're working in and there, with politics, your education doesn't necessarily play a big role. It doesn't. Like if you have a particular job, like my sister was talking about this topic earlier today, and she's talking about somebody who just got a job at the Department of Energy. They have a background, like a scientific background and stuff, you know, that helped them for that job. But with politics, a lot of time if you can grind and you put in the experience and you make good connections, like so much stuff is calling, like, hey, we need people here to make calls. Can you arrange people to get here? Or hey, there's a senator coming to this event. Can you rally, you know, this amount of people here? Hey, they want to come to this event. Can you get a church? Can you get some pastors together? Who do you know? And can you get them there in a short amount of time? Because many people can do things with months out in advance, and politics, things move very quickly. And if you can't do it, well, you ought to know how to do it, but you better have like a network of people who can help you get there. And then you better make sure that you're doing things too to make those people happy so they stay in your network. You know, so much of the public relations stuff is public relations. And I don't know, you know, I assume she has that background and stuff, but I'm working with people and, you know, and so on, but you don't need to have a master's in education or anything like that to be able to pull something like that off. You don't. You don't. You can get it. You can work your way up, and many people work their way up. And you got to grind. You got to grind. My sister, when she started work, she volunteered first. She started volunteering at the Detroit office. Well, she started volunteering, I think, before they even opened the office. So when they decided to open up that office and they needed someone to manage it, she was the person. And she did a lot of work to make that office work. And then she started doing field work. And then they put her over different counties. And then she was over like 3 different counties. And this is during the Trump era when he won in 2016 in Michigan. And not mine, but the Republican State Party is one of the best state parties in the country. And a lot of people will come from other states to work there in Michigan because they know it's if you do well there, it's a good fast track to go get a good job in DC. So I was always surprised when people would come and or interview, and I'm like, you're from where? Why did you come here? And that's why. So, but she did well. We obviously had a very successful, cycle. And the boss at the time was Ronna McDaniel. So Ronna became the head of the RNC, and there's things didn't work out so good in the end, and she resigned, and that was after like 3 cycles. So like he held her onto her for a while, and there's all kinds of not conflicting things, but they had conflicts. I won't get into it, but anyway, my sister went out to the RNC during that time, and then she ended up going back to the RNC and stuff. So, but she doesn't have a master's in education. This woman has more education than my sister does. She did really well. First off, she knew how to grind. She never worked at the White House. She just knew how to grind. In politics, if you're talented, you know how to. You don't even have to be that talented, but if you grind and make enough connections, you need talent and charisma for certain stuff. My job, you need talent. When I had doing like the creative directors kind of stuff, and if you're doing on camera stuff, a lot of things you can learn if you work hard. When I did sales, I wasn't particularly great at it. I don't have a natural talent for it, not at all. And I did decent, and I worked my way up from I worked at Market Center. It was a computer store, general sales, like just selling stuff that was out on the floor and keeping like the ink aisles all neat and stuff. And I took pride in like my ink aisles and making it nice, and and then I worked my way up to build your own computers, where people come in and get parts to buy computers. And then I moved on to the actual selling computers and laptops and stuff. So I worked my way up through every department. And well, I didn't work in like the service department, but I did and I never was a cashier, but I did study in there, so I knew how to build the computers as well. So I trained in there a little bit. So, I worked hard and I, did the courses and I hated the role play. And so I knew enough and worked really, really hard that I was pretty good at the job. But I wasn't naturally talented at it at all. So a lot of things you can learn. But I hate to sell. I really do. I should probably like pitch and sell harder and stuff when people come to my tables at Comic-Con. But it's so awkward. Like I just hate it. I just hate selling. But also though, at the same time, when people come up to the booth and they're interested in a book and they pick it up and they start reading the back of it, I'm kind of like, do they want me to talk or do they just want to read the back of it? Because they didn't ask what it was about. They just picked it up and flipped it over. So I'm always kind of waiting awkwardly and I'll interject or whatever, but it's not my favorite thing. But some people ooze charisma. Donald Trump, oh my gosh, pew, 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 oozes it, just shoots out of him. Very funny. And then he's like just very skillful at selling. Like I played that video yesterday, I think it was of Barbara Corcoran talking about how Donald Trump is the most talented person she's ever seen. So he's just got a unique arsenal that he's working with. But she just doesn't. This kind of going off on CNN about how people don't treat her right because she's black and this is why we need DEI or whatever. And it's just not attractive. But that's the kind of drama I guess they probably pay for on CNN. So you get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. Anyway, let's move on. So Donald Trump signed this executive order the other day. The White House released a special video. Just look at this picture. The idiot Democrats just you got all these women, young girls, so excited because he's signing this, protecting their sports, some of them in their uniforms. And I just want you to keep in mind that this is the hero of the young women and the little girls who's signing this executive order. This man who is the grab him by the you-know-what man. The Democrats allowed him to be their champion. The Democrats allowed this man to come in and do a slam dunk on an 80-20 issue because they like their fringe crap and they couldn't let it go. Now, we've had many conversations in the past about Democrats and their fringe issues and like what is the motivation of them focusing so much on the trans stuff. Now they'll try to be like, we weren't even talking about it. These are Republicans who are obsessed with it. They're the ones obsessed with it. Kamala Harris didn't even talk about it on the campaign trail. As if we're supposed to forget everything that they've done associated with that issue. Just insane. We have memories. We have brains. Okay. But it would be puzzling because why are they focusing? Because they'll say it's such a small amount of the population. It's such a small, even with this issue, they're like, oh, congratulations, Trump signing this executive order. And there's only like 34 men or whoever who try to be in women's sports or whatever numbers they try to produce. And the answer is, okay, well, first of all, one is too many. We definitely don't want it to be more. And if you encourage bad behavior, that a young man who's maybe mediocre in sports can say he's a woman and then all of a sudden start dominating. That's the plot of Lady Ballers. Yeah. From the Daily Wire. Like if that's a thing, people will keep just doing it. Okay. So you want to stop that in its tracks. And it seems like everybody should just be like, yeah, that makes total sense. We should make sure that women's sports are protected. And Democrats are like, no, you guys are bigots. We got to protect the trans kids with everything that we have. How dare you keep focusing on them? They're such a small amount of the population. It's like, yes, they are such a small part of the population. So if it is such a small part of the population, why are you obsessed with it? And why are you so obsessed and feel that these couple people, these handful of people, have to override all of the women? Why is it that Leah Thomas got to override Riley Gaines? Why is it that Leah Thomas had to override all of the other women on that team? Why is it that they had to make those girls uncomfortable? Why did they say you guys have to get on with the program, and if you're uncomfortable, we can, I don't know, make you have therapy or whatever to get why do these girls and these sororities have to be uncomfortable when they let a monstrosity of a man join their group? Why is it that the women have to be uncomfortable in the spas if it's such a small number? The people who are part of the small number need to just get over themselves and accept that them trying to alter their reality doesn't alter reality in reality. You're still someone masquerading around as a woman, and you're not actually a woman, and you don't have the right to be in our spaces. And sorry that makes you uncomfortable, but it's just the truth. And you could have lived your life feeling uncomfortable just inwardly, but now you have to feel uncomfortable outwardly and inwardly. And I'm not going to just make myself feel uncomfortable to appease you. And it just really should have been that simple. If there's a young man who says he's a girl and wants to still do sports, their parents should sit them down and say, well, that's too bad. You got to pick one. I mean, they really shouldn't let them transition. But if they just said, hey, if you want to go down this route, people have no obligation to treat you like a girl, and they're still going to treat you like a boy, and nothing is going to change other than you painting your nails and growing your hair out. Maybe they'll grow out of this nonsense instead of us affirming it. So don't tell me that it's a small number when you guys wanted to bring the world to a grinding halt. So anyway, why do they keep focusing on this little bit of the population? It's not that big of a voting base. Apparently, it was a very good issue for Trump and Republicans, obviously. So why focus on that? And my theory was that focusing on these minority groups, even like the LGBT stuff, it conflicts so much with, I would say, rights, with a religious right, for example. And if they could bring certain things to the Supreme Court, or they could eventually overturn and damage a lot of American institutions. That's what I think. I think it was about a gambit for obtaining power through activism, and obviously it didn't work. I think a lot of it is actual ideology, a devotion to it, but that's not going to work because we are experiencing political climate change. The pendulum has swung, right? So I'm very happy. Let me play a clip.
You want to do this? Watch what I do, and then I'm going to give you some pens. Okay? You ready? What a nice picture this is, huh, Governor? You ready? We'll do a good job. Wait, let me press that. I want to make this a really good signature because this is a big one, right? Oh, I think we have a 10. We have a 10.
God bless you, Mr. President.
You want to do this? Watch.
Okay, so the White House actually cut a video together. Let's go ahead and watch it since they're pretty darn good at it. But man, the Democrats really screwed the pooch on this. Really, really did.
In a few moments, I'll sign a historic executive order to ban men from competing in women's sports. About time. Administration will not stand by and beat and batter female athletes from women's sports will be only for women. In recent years, the radical left has waged an all-out campaign to erase the very concept of biological sex and replace it with a militant transgender ideology. We're honored to be joined today by many incredible advocates for women's sports, including the brave swimmer at the forefront of this battle. And Riley Gaines is a person that I've been watching. In my action this afternoon, we're putting every school receiving taxpayer dollars on notice that if you let men take over women's sports teams or invade your locker rooms, you will be investigated for violations of Title IX and risk your federal funding. There will be no federal funding. With this executive order, the war on women's sports is over. We are restoring sanity and common sense, defending the rights and safety and pride of the American people, including our great, great, great female athletes.
Pretty good video. By the way, like the Trump White House or just Trump team in general just knows how to do all this stuff better than the Biden folks and so on. They just, they're gonna get him, man. They're gonna get him. So CNN did a segment about this. So I'm gonna go ahead and play.
I think these numbers are really illuminating on this topic because I just think there's such a clear trend among the American public. So transgender female athletes in women's sports, only 18% of the country says that they should be, in fact, allowed to participate in women's sports. Compare this to the opposition. I mean, my goodness gracious, 79%. You rarely get 79% of the country to agree on anything, but they do, in fact, agree on the idea of opposing transgender female athletes in women's sports. But it's not just the here and now, Laura. It's not just the here and now. What we're actually seeing is a trend on this particular issue, and it's going in the direction of opposition. So take a look here. Okay, transgendered female athletes, and amongst those Americans who oppose them in women's sports, back in 2021, it was 62%. A majority, but, not anywhere close to a ginormous majority, right? A clear majority, but not a ginormous majority. But then again, you look here in 2025, you see it at 79%. So it's not just that the majority of Americans are opposed to transgender female athletes in women's sports. It's that the opposition has become considerably larger in just the last 4 years.
How does this break down across party lines?
Yeah. So, when you get 79% of Americans to agree on anything, in this case, opposition to transgender female athletes in women's sports, you got to believe that it's the majority across all parties. And that's, in fact, what we see. So transgender female athletes.
Bro, independence. What are you doing? Why are you only at 64% on this? Why are you only at 64%? Is that just Democrats who don't want to identify as Democrats and they say they're independent? Like, I don't know. Why only 64%? Or are those really stubborn libertarians like, I don't care about this issue. They can, if that's what the school decides. Like, but anyway.
Again, opposing them in women's sports. You get 67% of Democrats, so 2/3 there. You get 64% of independents, so you get about 2/3 there. And then look at this, near uniformity among Republicans, 94% of Republicans in opposition. You rarely get 67% of Democrats and 94% of Republicans to agree on anything, but they do on this particular issue. But it's not just that Republicans are in an opposition, it's the strength of that opposition. Okay, Republicans who strongly want to ban transgender female athletes from women's sports. Get this, it's 84% who strongly want to ban them. And that is actually larger than the amount of Republicans who strongly want to deport all immigrants in America who are here illegally. So that just gives you an understanding of how strong the opposition is among Republicans. It is really strong when it comes to banning transgender female athletes from women's sports, Laura.
Yeah. Well, I would expect that number to be more than ban everybody who's in the country illegally, but not surprised. It's also over 50%. I'm in that 50%. So I'm in the majority. So good on President Trump there for making that happen. And you know what? It's not something that should have required an executive order. It's so stupid. But that's something that Obama was pushing. Like, people give a lot of flack because it's explosion or whatever during the Biden administration, how vocal they were about it. But Obama was like trying to threaten to pull funding from places if they didn't allow transgender boys, like put boys in girls' bathrooms or locker rooms or whatever too. I recall those being stories. I don't know why so many people want to give him a pass, but he was a radical, but the world was really different back then in 2008. You know, when he ran and then when he actually became the president, the world was really different. He ran, pretending that he was for, marriage being between a man and a woman. Like the world just really, really changed. When he got elected, gay marriage was banned in California. That year he was elected. The world was just really, really different. But that didn't mean that he wasn't a radical himself. But as far as views that he could express or really push, it was kind of more subtle. But a lot of those people were, working with Obama. They worked with Biden and stuff, And I don't know how alive he was or how much he was really pushing. He was signing all kinds of crap. They didn't know about. Speaker Johnson talked about how he signed something. He's like, no, I signed an executive order for us to research. He's like, no, you signed something to ban something that hurts people in my state. Like, what do you mean, sir? And all that clemency and stuff for people who, just awful people. They didn't vet all that stuff. Not at all. The only thing he was probably awake for was when he issued them pardons for his family at the very last second. Like right before Trump got inaugurated, man. Anyway, let's start to move on. But as I said, I think one of the reasons why they're so kind of focused on these issues, besides being with the ideology and their devotion to the oppression Olympics and the hierarchy, like she's talking about DEI. That woman from CNN. And I told my sister, I'm like, she can like DEI, want to push it all she wants, but a lot of white women have actually benefited from DEI. And if there is a position where they're like, okay, we need a DEI candidate, they might not necessarily go like, hey, let's get the black lady. They might say, hey, there's a chick with purple hair who says that she has Zer in her bio. Or in her, it's a bio or whatever. So that sounds more marginalized to me. So let's go ahead and promote they/them and they get the job. So just because there's DEI out there, like Dr. Umar went on a rant about people crying about DEI. He's like, don't cry for something that's not actually there for you. Don't cry for something that's not actually there to benefit you. He's like, let that go. Let that go. So there's an ideology aspect to it, but Jack Phillips, they went after him for not baking like the gay cake, and then they went after him for not baking like a transgender cake or something like that. And this man was always like continuously in court, so they pushed their particular stuff so they could try to change things in the courts and do other sorts of activism. And while they're working in that kind of route, they're in the schools trying to make your kids read a bunch of weird stuff and infecting the minds of the young. And excuse me, I I just think it's all been madness the whole time, but they fumbled the bag. But congratulations to Riley Gaines. Riley Gaines was on my not on my show, but I interviewed her a few years ago. Maybe, I don't know, might have been at least 2 years. But it was when she just kind of started getting started with her going around and speaking, and she was still kind of trying to figure things out. She had graduated. She was supposed to like become a dentist, I think. And we talked about what had happened with Leah Thomas, and she had just kind of started to travel. She came for an event, and that a local group had set up, and I got a hookup to be able to interview her. And so we had an interview, and it was great. And she was very kind, and maybe I'll have to see if I can speak to her again if she's not too busy or too big or anything. But the I don't think she'd feel like I've grown too big for you, but I don't think she'd have that attitude, but she could genuinely be too busy. So maybe I'll try to reach out. But she's that interview's on my channel. You can go back and find it and look for it. But yeah, I'm very proud of her for all the work that she did, and she thanked me for the work that I was doing, just highlighting this issue and talking about that issue. And I'm glad that she was out there to take the slings and the arrows. And I've had many people speak about me and will say bad things, but plenty of you have said positive things. And I know many people out there could not speak out because they'd be fired from their jobs and all kinds of different things. And they're in a position where they were muzzled. So they appreciated that I was saying stuff. So I'm glad that, my little soapbox made a difference, but I'm really glad that, that she made such a critical impact. I saw that she had did an ad, and J.K. Rowling retweeted it. So, really, really incredible stuff. So next I want to talk about this congressman, Jared Huffman, congressman for California's North Coast, ranking member of Natural Resources Democrats, decided to protest the National Prayer Breakfast. Okay.
Hi, folks. I'm just getting ready to cross the street for the National Prayer Breakfast. I am not going to this event because I support it. I'm actually going to protest it. And I'm going to be wearing a couple of buttons to explain that. This one, Build This Wall, is about the wall of separation between church and state that our founders intended for our secular republic. And then this one says, Entering Gilead, of course, a reference to a creepy dystopic theocracy, which is the slippery slope we're heading down with events like this. Let's walk and I'll tell you more about it.
the slippery slope of the National Prayer Breakfast, which is just an institutional thing that is old, that Democrats and Republicans have both been a part of, I think since the 50s, I think. So, okay. The slippery slope. This man's from California. He's from California. You want to talk about slippery friggin' slope to me? And you from California? You're a Democrat from California. All the crazy stuff that y'all do and put up with and sign into law. And the National Prayer Breakfast is too far.
So, look, we should not be having a Christian prayer service in the sanctum of the United States Capitol in Statuary Hall. This is an actual violation of church-state separation like we have never seen.
Not.
Second year in a row, Speaker Johnson has done this. And now they're doing it in open collaboration with a group called the Fellowship Foundation, which is this radical extremist group that does things like goes to Africa and supports legislation to kill gay people and openly supports an anti-woman, anti-LGBT extreme agenda here in the United States. Stuff like this complete breakdown of church-state separation is a big part of the dystopic authoritarian agenda at the heart of Donald Trump and his MAGA movement. And today I'm going to try to do my part to just say enough.
You know what's dystopian to me? Like trying to advocate like, hey, you can come to our state and do transgender surgeries or have an abortion. You know, we don't care what your parents think. That's dystopian. That's violence. That's evil. And you're tripping about the prayer breakfast. So this is a congressman. Someone said, who's this guy? Representative Gerald Huffman from California. So it's a tradition that began in 1953. Which there's a community note under his video. Like, Obama did the national prayer breakfast. I didn't always like what he had to. I mean, I guess it wasn't too awful, but sometimes I'd be like, bruh. But ooh, people got negative comments, man. People are pointing out what separation of church and state is actually for, which I'm going to. The faith of Democrats, only when politically convenient. I bet Jared is a blast at parties. I guess the only thing bipartisan these days is complaining about the other side's prayers. He should read Jefferson's letter to his nephew if he really wants to understand that. Yeah, the legislation. I didn't. I watched that whole video with you guys for the first time, so probably some of my eyes go like when he said the legislation kill gay people. Someone said it's getting so all the Democrats are doing is just everyone is walking around the streets protesting what's what. That's seems to be all that they can do. They don't know what else to do with themselves. You know, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you guys. Didn't have the tweets up on for you guys to see. The Democrats could have just accepted their L in the election and been like, we're gonna try to work with Trump. Like they're really flipping out about the Doge stuff, and that that leaks into money that's into and people's pet projects and their activist projects, and some of the things that are probably being pointed out are like not a big deal and they need to correct the record on or whatever. So what they need to do, what they should be doing, instead of like going and setting up press conferences where they talk about the evil billionaires, even though they're friends with more evil billionaires, and George Soros is like the quintessential evil billionaire. They don't mind billionaires when they write Democrat checks, okay? And they don't mind Democrat billionaire influence. So why are you complaining about Elon Musk? At least we all know who Elon Musk is. At least Elon Musk, he openly, campaigned, and they openly planned what they were going to do, and people supported it. They thought it was a cool idea. I thought it was a great idea. I'm like, I guess that's when I started kind of getting excited. I'm like, Elon Musk is going to talk about cutting stuff. That sounds exciting, as far as ideas that the Trump administration was throwing out there. That was the first one. I was like, like, really? So what they should have probably done with Doge, because at first they thought it was a joke or whatever, pretty much, and now they're flipping out. They should have just been like, you know what? We're gonna make sure that people's money are being spent responsibly. They can say, there's some data I think they're looking at a little skewed. So we'll work with them and try to explain why this money is here and why this money is there, why we still need funding here. And we will cut, some wasteful spending and try to be more responsible with the taxpayer dollars, going forward. Like, we're all turning over a new leaf. We're all going to be working together, because they could certainly, I'm sure, find the government money spent poorly while Trump was president last time. So they could point fingers like we can find, money spent irresponsibly across many different administrations and stuff. We're going to make a new commitment today to try to do the best with American taxpayer dollars and try to seem level-headed, try to seem like they're on the right track, trying to stop, make 80-20 issues with stuff, or where the Americans want something done and they're flipping out about it. But to go just like, we got to stop Elon Musk. It's too much. Like when Trump was president last time and I came to DC, I told my sister, I'm like, oh, there's people protesting. She's like, people protest every day. There's a protest every day. People find a reason to protest him every day. And they'll continue to do that. But Chuck Schumer and all those folks going out there and making themselves look foolish, they actually need to have some kind of game plan. And just being the opposition, it's not as sexy as it was last time. It's not. You know, the resistance. You guys aren't cool. You know, Grandpa Trump around all the little young ladies, making sure that they can just play in their sports and not be taken advantage of sick young men. Like, that's the good side. You're not on the good side. Like, you should be praising some of the stuff that he's doing and not fighting in court. Now, some things I understand getting blocked. Like, I understand the 14th Amendment, you know, citizenship thing getting blocked in court very quickly. You know, of course, they'd have to litigate that, and just kind of how things are. I would understand from the reading that he doesn't kind of have that right to do what he's doing with that executive order. But if the court reinterprets that, they're going to be in a world of trouble. But some of this stuff, he got elected, and they should work together. Like, nobody should have voted against the Lake and Riley Act. Just work together on this stuff and make yourself seem less crazy. Because if you become less crazy, then Trump becomes more crazy in folks' eyes, and the midterm pops up. But y'all want to keep pushing crazy, and it's people aren't gonna like it. Looking more moderate is how they got some wins in 2018. But if they want to, you know, be like, we're ready to fight for the trans kids, all 12 of them, people are going to pick their daughters at the end of the day than your pretend son. And that's really what it is. But picking a fight about the National Prayer Breakfast, and you're concerned about creating a dystopian future, and you out here from California. The separation of church and state is not about separating religion from the state. It's about protecting religion from the state. That's what it's about. And we know that because there was a letter to the Danbury Baptists that Jefferson wrote the Danbury Baptists were concerned about the fact that the First Amendment talked about religion, because they're like, wait a second, do you guys think that you guys give us this right? Because if you think that you give us this right, then we got an issue there. And he's like, no. That's not what it is. Like the wall of separation. I pulled it up. Let me just go through the letter. The wall of separation is about protecting you guys. Like, we can't establish, you know, the religion or whatever. Like, so, let me beef that up a little bit with the size, because y'all know I'm blind out here. Gentlemen, the affectionate sentiments of esteem and approbation, which you are so good as to express towards me on behalf of the Danbury Baptist Association, give me the highest satisfaction. My duties dictate a faithful and zealous pursuit of the interests of my constituents, and proportion as they are persuaded of my fidelity to those duties, the discharge of them becomes more and more pleasing, believing with you that religion is a matter of which lies solely between man and his God, that he owes account to none other for his faith or his worship, that the legitimate powers of government reach actions only and not opinions. I contemplate with sovereign reverence that act of whole American people which declared that their legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state, adhering to this expression of the supreme will of the nation in behalf of the rights of conscience, I shall see with sincere satisfaction the progress of those sentiments which tend to restore to man all his natural rights, convinced he has no natural right in opposition to his social duties. I reciprocate your kind prayers for the protection and blessings of the common Father and Creator of man, and tender you for yourselves and your religious association assurances of my respect and esteem. So I mean, there's been religious things back in the day, like with the founders in or like on government property. So him saying this is a big violation, and you're just a hater. You're just a hater, bruh. And dudes like him, like when I say that they use those fringe issues to try to pick apart religious stuff, just remember there's dudes like him in the government, like AOC. She went on this big rant once about the only time that Christians bring up religious liberty is when they want to advance bigotry. And it's like, well, we have to bring up religious liberty when you guys are bigots and you guys want to attack us for just speaking about our faith. And you guys call it hate speech, or you want to limit our how we worship or how we preach or how we conduct our lives, where you say stuff like, well, you can do whatever in the church, but you guys shouldn't be bringing that outside to the world. It's like, well, you can't not be a Christian. It's not something you clock in and clock out of. It's either you are or you aren't, So, sorry, I'm like trying to plug in this light. And I did a video some time ago. It's one of my earlier videos on my account where it's I guess I made it back in like 2020 or 2019, because Pete Buttigieg, I can't stand that guy. I hope he doesn't run for governor of Michigan, because he did move out here. He said that Democrats are religious, but they don't talk about it because they want to be respectful of other people's faith, which I don't think is a very compelling thing to say if you consider yourself to be a Christian anyway, because not that you can't respect other people's abilities and whatever to worship whatever they want to worship, but I mean, Christianity is very much, you guys are wrong, I'm right kind of religion. So, it is what it is. We all can't be right. So, but he's just wrong. So I used like different examples of Democrats talking. Like I talked about how Bernie Sanders, when Russell Vought was going through a confirmation hearing, he like really grilled him and was mad that he wrote a paper for his alma mater, his college, saying that basically Jesus was the only way, and talked about criticize like Islam and stuff. And he's like, you don't think that Muslims know God, and you saying all this stuff, and like he's like, I talked about the centrality of Jesus Christ. That's, my faith. That's my, the opinion of my alma mater. And he's just like, he said he wasn't going to vote for him due to what he said, but he wasn't going to vote for him anyway. But he made it so much about that. And so there's a little stir of controversy, but on the Young Turks show, they had posted on YouTube, and they're like, religious, Bernie Sanders destroys religious bigot. And Bernie Sanders was the one who looked like the bigot. And Cory Booker grilling people, asking how many gay weddings did they perform as like, judges or clerks or whatever, and asking their opinions on same-sex marriage and stuff. And they're just like, we've never discriminated against anyone. We do our job. And he's like, but did you perform a gay marriage? So, so they're focused on, they like to go to the churches, the woke, not even like necessarily woke churches, but like your church doesn't have to be woke to vote Democrat. I mean, a lot of Black churches they may have internally conservative values, but they'll still vote, party lines, no matter what. So Cory Booker or whoever might feel comfortable going there and campaigning there, But, when it comes to like a Christian being confirmed and they have, they're committed to their values, it's like, but did you support a gay wedding? So I'm glad the nonsense is stopping. I'm glad the nonsense is stopping. But I don't know how much more out of touch you can be to show up to a prayer breakfast to protest that. Someone said, let me look at some of the comments under his thing. There's a couple funny ones. Before I let you go. Ben Carson would like a word with you, Congressman. Get better staff and delete this. That's good advice. There is no separation of church and state other than a phrase coined by leftists who despise people beholden to something besides government. The 1A covers freedom of religion. As long as government is not forcing people to participate, it's fine. It's true. I have no idea someone with your lack of IQ and intelligence is elected to office not actually knowing things like this. To go through the separation of church and state. Let me see if there's any interesting quote retweets. But did he protest this when Obama was president? I'm sure Biden. I mean, they didn't have it maybe in the same place, but they have these things all the time. Oh, Huffman seems unaware that the prayer breakfast was moved to the Capitol in 2023 before Johnson became Speaker. Why was it moved? Because of concerns raised by Democrats. And the Fellowship Foundation, they no longer run the event. It's run by a foundation headed by Democrat Heidi Heitkamp. Big picture. The breakfast scheduled for Thursday will be held at the Visitor Center at the Capitol and will be much smaller than previous events. Because usually they're pretty big events. The event is no longer being run by the International Foundation, often referred to as the Family, but instead newly created National Prayer Breakfast Foundation led by former Senator Mark Pryor. As with many other things in our country, the COVID years allowed the members to hit the reset button and organize a working group to fulfill this longtime vision, Pryor said at an event per the Religion News Service. The reimagined event allows Congress to return to its roots and come together to pray for for the president, pray for his family and administration, pray for our government, and the world. Look at that. The event has drawn criticism in recent years, and lawmakers raised concerns that they did not know many details about the event per AP. Some questions have been raised about the ability as members of Congress to say that we knew exactly how it was being organized, who was being invited, how it was being funded. Senator Chris Coons told AP, many of us who'd been in leadership roles really couldn't answer those questions, so it looks like they just kind of wanted to localize it. So, look at that. Look at that. Was that the only quote retweet that I can see? No, there's more. Literally every president goes to this. It started in 1953 and it has been attended by Eisenhower, JFK, Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, Obama, Trump, and Biden. This is the dumbest propaganda. The National Prayer Breakfast has existed for 75 years. I listened to President Obama address them. I serve on the committee for our Commonwealth Prayer Breakfast. It's silliness. Here's Scott Jennings. How did Democrats come to decide that the most aggressively stupid members of their party should be their most visible spokespeople? The communist tells lies as easily as he breathes. It's not something he's okay with. It's something he's trained to do with purpose. Lie about everything at all times because the truth will crush the revolution. That's why they tell gigantic, easily verifiable lies. Yeah. This level of ignorance on the bipartisan history of the National Prayer Breakfast is astoundingly unsurprising, given that a Democrat did once say on the House floor, a man and a woman. I remember that. Oh gosh. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm going to like that post. We lost nationwide. Our approval ratings is in the tank, and the future of our party hangs in the balance. What are we going to do to win back the American people? Don't worry, I've got just the thing. Gotta love community notes. Yeah. So there's some good retweets here. This is the dumbest thing ever. Oh, by Chris Chisilla. Okay. This is the dumbest thing ever. This is a bipartisan event that past Democratic presidents have attended and spoken at. Like, do a Google search. So even mainstream media personalities are dunking on him. Yeah, just a really dumb thing to do. Anyway, I don't know how long the Democrats are going to keep taking these L's. I mean, they did win a special election in Iowa in a like Trump plus 20 district. So I don't know who fumbled the bag there, but I don't know. There's always like a wave of resistance back. I don't think Trump's probably going to maintain the House and the Senate all 4 years or whatever, but I don't know. We'll see. I guess there's only one midterm where that can shift. So we'll see. We'll see for sure. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost to stream and run my site, all that stuff, so you guys can support. I very much appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch that's available at blacktnews.com, like different shirts like the goat hoodie, and I do have a goat t-shirt. It's cold outside right now, so you guys might want hoodies, and I do have them in different colors. It is really cold. Like, it's kind of cold. Like, I'm right next to my window, and it's just, there's so much ice on my car today. My sister was just scraping the same spot. We just had to like wait for the car to warm up some more before we could start like, checking away at it. But yeah, it was a lot. It didn't really snow last night, but there was like freezing rain, I guess, but it was bad. It's not too terribly slippery though, but anyway, more shirts and other things you guys can check out. And please check out some of my books like Slay Your Fear, How to Overcome a Spirit of Fear. And of course, my nonfiction books like The Color of God's Eyes. I know some of you were interested and plan to pick some up. So I hope you guys like them. I hope you guys like all of my babies, and I'll let you guys know when different events occur. So God bless you, and I'll see you next time.